Tonight we slip into the forgotten rhythm of childbirth in the Middle Ages. Boring history, perfect for dozing off. Not a hospital, not a clinic, not even your own bed. You'd give birth in straw, laid fresh beside livestock, your cries muffled by prayer, your future held in the call-used hands of a village midwife who'd seen more stillness than salvation. No pain relief, no doctor, no idea if you or the child would survive. And yet, most of us were born from that hush. So ease back and let the weight of the day slip away. Tonight we'll descend softly into candlelit chambers where the blood was real, the saints were watching, and the silence meant everything. Before you sink deeper into the pillow, brush a soft tap on like. If these hushed tales soothe you, let subscribe, quietly follow. Leave me a quiet clue, a whisper of what your city is known for, but don't name it. I'll guess where you're listening from. As we map the night together, ease the lights low. Let the hum of a fan or a gentle breeze keep you company. We'll begin when you're ready. The last coal in the hearth gives off a thread of warmth, not enough to light the room, just enough to show you that it's still there, alive in the ash, like a heartbeat under blankets. Your blanket, of course, is heavier now, or maybe that's just your breath slowing. Either way, you're ready. Outside, the shutters creak slightly. Wood warps in the night air. A draft slips under the sill, like a whispered thought. And somewhere far off, you hear the low sound of hooves on packed earth. Someone's coming, but not yet. In medieval villages, there was a kind of silence that only came when birth hovered near. The hearth would burn low, never out. The animals would be hushed, as if they knew. And the women, the midwife, the aunties, the neighbor girls, they'd lower their voices, not because they were afraid, but because they were listening for the first breath. It was a ritual of quiet, of presence, and of waiting. So take this moment now to let your own breath match that stillness. Breathe in through your nose. Slowly, a count of 4. Hold, just for a moment, and let it out again, like steam from a pot that's not quite boiling. That's better. The woman we'll follow tonight isn't famous. No royal seal, no carved tomb, no name you'll find in ink. But she did something so many didn't live to do. She gave birth and lived, not in safety, not in light, not in peace, but she lived. And in her straw-swept silence, she left a story that echoes in us all. You're here because someone, somewhere, did what she did. Let the fire settle. Let the hush settle deeper. Tonight, we are entering a world where birth was part miracle, part gamble, and entirely done without asking permission. You don't need to remember any of this. You only need to feel it. Let your eyes close gently. Let the night hold you. We're ready now. It begins with a bell, not the great iron one from the church tower. This is smaller, a simple cowbell, tarnished, tied above a cottage door with fraying wool cord. It's wrapped in rosemary and blessed salt, meant to keep out the devil and call in the midwife. Tonight, it rings for you. The sound is dull, clinking once, twice, then silence, the kind of silence that settles like dust on everyone who hears it. The room doesn't panic, it prepares. You are 15 or 16. You've lost track since last harvest. The years are counted in sacks of grain and dead chickens, not birthdays. Your belly is full and heavy. It slopes low now, the child shifting lower with every passing hour. You have been squatting, kneeling, pacing, but now you're ready. You are taken by the elbow, gently, by your mother's sister, whose hands always smell like sour milk and soap root. She guides you back into the house, not the front room, the back, where the hearth is hottest, and the bed has been stripped to the straw. The straw is fresh, laid 2 days ago, mixed with crushed lavender, dried thyme, barley husks. This isn't comfort, 'tis tradition. Straw absorbs the blood, keeps the mother from slipping, and if the child doesn't survive, the straw is burned. Quietly, outside the village boundary, you sit. No, you lie, propped against a mound of rolled linen, legs drawn up slightly, feet bare. It's warm, too warm. Someone opens a shutter, but the wind that slips in smells like damp wood and sheep. They close it again. The fire glows behind you, not roaring, but constant. Its heat flickers on your shoulder, but you're already sweating. The midwife hasn't arrived yet, but the room has already changed. A pail of ale sits beside the door, still steaming. A stack of linen, boiled, dried, folded, waits on a stool. A pair of shears rests beside a length of red thread, and in the corner, a shallow wooden bowl, half filled with warm water and marigold petals, yellow and bruised. Everything is ready. Your aunt kneels and begins to braid your hair, not tightly, just enough to keep it from your eyes. Better this way, she murmurs. Less for the baby to grab. You don't ask if she means it literally. The other women speak softly. They never speak above a whisper once labor begins. Not for your sake, but for the child's. They say loud voices startle the spirit, that if the soul hears shouting as it enters, it may turn back. And then the door creaks. The bell clangs again, louder now, just once. She's here. The midwife enters without knocking. She always does. She's older than anyone remembers, and walks with a limp that no one questions. She carries a bundle wrapped in oilskin and wears no expression, not fear, not hope, only attention. Her eyes move from your face to your belly. She says nothing. She sets the bundle on the stool, pulls up her sleeves, wipes her hands on her apron, presses 2 fingers to your wrist, then your temple. Still silent, then not long. That's all. And somehow, you believe her. The room exhales. The air thickens. The rushes shift. You are lying in, and what comes next will either bring you forward into the world again, or end you entirely. She arrives just after the midwife, though no one heard her knock. The alewife doesn't speak. She never does at births. She simply places her jug on the hearthstone, steam rising faintly from the spout, as if the contents know they're needed. She's not here for celebration. She's here for cleanliness, or what passes for it. The midwife gives her a glance and a nod. The alewife begins her ritual. She pours a small basin of ale, hot, bitter, recently boiled. Its scent sharpens the air. Grain, metal, bark. This is the closest thing to sterile in the room. Not because it's pure, but because it's all they have. The cloths are dropped in first, coarse linen squares that have seen more wounds than pillows. She stirs them once, with a wooden spoon carved by her father, back when childbirth still terrified her. Now she just watches and prepares. You lie on your side, knees drawn in, the straw beneath you rustling with every shiver. It itches, or maybe your skin simply doesn't fit anymore. The baby is low, lower than before. You can feel it pressing down, insistent, blind, steady, a weight that isn't yours, but is. The midwife unwraps her bundle now, not all of it, just enough. A flint blade, thread, knotted in pairs, a strip of wool, a twig of ash. Then, quietly, she extends her hand. The alewife reaches into her apron and produces the cord knife. It's old, handle worn smooth, blade darkened from years of fire and ale and blood. She doesn't hand it over. She lays it down on the stool beside the water basin, a gesture of offering or warning. You've seen it before, not up close, but you remember when it was used on your cousin's son, and when it wasn't on your neighbor's stillborn girl. The cord had twisted, too tight, too late. There'd been no knife then, only hands, and silence. The alewife hands a second item to the midwife. A scrap of cloth, folded tight. Inside, dried thyme, salt, vinegar paste. They'll rub it on the blade before it's used. You wonder who first thought that would help. You wonder if it ever did, but you won't ask. You're not supposed to speak now. You're saving your breath for the next pain, for the next push, for the next prayer you might not say aloud. The women in the room, your aunt, a neighbor girl, the midwife, the alewife, they move like parts of a single body. One folds towels, another wipes your face, one checks the fire. None of them interrupt the flow. No one speaks unless it matters. You're the only one in pain, but you are not alone. The pressure builds again. Your spine curves with it. Your thighs shake. You bite the inside of your cheek. It tastes like copper. You think that's mine, and then not all of it will be. The alewife presses a warm cloth to your abdomen, not hard, not to stop anything, just to remind your body it's being watched. You open your eyes, just once, and see her watching the blade instead. There is no fear in her face, only memory. Nothing in this room is sterile. Not the cloth, not the air, not the shears or the bowl or the basin. Only the fear. It stands untouched, unshared, clean as morning frost, waiting for its turn. It's tied with red twine, not ribbon, not cord, just a strip of spun wool, dyed with elderberry and dried in the hearth ash for luck. The midwife's bundle sits on the stool beside your bed, oilcloth crinkled, waxed for damp, creased at the corners, like it remembers every time it's been opened. She hasn't untied it yet. She waits, watches you as another pain ripples across your belly. As you shift, as you try not to cry out, she counts your breath, slowly, silently, then nods once. That's her permission to begin. She opens the bundle, like a priest, opens a reliquary, one item at a time, each with a place, each with a past. First, the scissors, short, blackened, slightly crooked, blades, honed sharp, not with stone, but with linen. Years of cloth cutting, cord snipping, blood trimming, have polished them better than flint ever could. Next, a thin strip of leather. It's cracked, soft. She winds it loosely around her wrist. A charm, maybe, or something older, something never spoken aloud. Then the herbs. Dried pennyroyal, stiff with age, kept not for drinking, not now, but for scent. Next to it, a sachet of thyme and salt, wrapped in vellum, so old, it's gone yellow at the creases. Ink still visible, a single Latin phrase, illegible but insistent. She places it beneath the mattress, directly below your hips, not for comfort, for protection. Against what? They never say. There's a tiny wooden comb, missing 2 teeth. Some midwives use it to untangle the mother's hair, not for vanity, but because they believe tangled hair can snarl the baby's soul. She lays it beside the bowl of water. You feel your scalp prickle. You're not sure if she'll use it on you. Finally, she produces a soft, folded cloth, so small you mistake it for padding. She opens it to reveal a relic, a fragment of a saint's veil, stolen or gifted. No one knows. It smells faintly of wax and lye. She tucks it under the pillow behind your head without a word. You glance at her hands, browned at the knuckles, caul used at the joints, nails kept short, not for tidiness, but because there's never time to let them grow. There's a mark on her thumb, a scar, thin and round, like she once grabbed the edge of a cooking pot and never let go. That's how you know she's real. The mark and the silence. She doesn't tell you what to do. She just adjusts the cloth beneath your thighs and folds a towel under your spine, with the precision of someone who knows exactly where the mess will land. You want to ask if she's done this many times, but you don't need to. You'd think saints would offer a loyalty card by baby #6, but the only reward is a name remembered in secret, and a bundle packed for the next girl. There's one item left. She reaches into the deepest fold and pulls out a lump of beeswax. She warms it between her palms until it softens, then presses it gently over your navel. just enough to keep the cold from entering, just enough to trick the body into thinking it is safe. The bundle is empty now, but the room feels heavier. Not from things, but from knowledge. Everything has been placed. Everything has been said, without speaking. The pain begins again, and this time, you are ready. You are not awake, but you are not gone either. The light is strange here. Neither firelight nor dawn, just a soft orange glow that moves behind your eyes like a hand through fabric. You are floating, or lying down. You can't quite tell. Your arms feel distant, your legs elsewhere. Only your breath remains. It comes slow, too slow to count, but steady. Like waves on a shore, no one visits anymore. You hear voices, low, layered, half-whispered things, spoken behind curtains. Someone says your name, once, then again, softly, like they're checking to see if your soul has left the room. It hasn't, but it is thinking about it. The rushes beneath you shift. Dry stalks crackle, then settle again. The cloth is lifted. Something warm is pressed to your skin, your temple, your belly. The scent follows. Fennel, salt, ash, a breath of beeswax still warm from the midwife's hand. The women don't speak now. Not to you. They sing, maybe, or hum. It's not a song you recognize, but the rhythm of it slips between your ribs, like a hand pressing gently against a pain it can't remove. You don't cry. You can't. Not here. Tears belong to the body, and the body, well, it's far away now. The child moves. You feel it as a ripple through water, a turn beneath blankets. You forgot you were under. You inhale, not sharply, just enough. The midwife hums louder, not faster, just closer. Her voice doesn't touch you, but it follows, like breath in cold air, invisible, but real. Someone wipes your face. The cloth smells like rose vinegar. It leaves no wetness, only scent, only memory. You were 5 once, and your mother sang this same note when your fever broke, and you didn't know what time meant. That's where you are now, between hours, between breaths, between the next pain and the last one. You forgot how to name. You want to sleep, but something in the room won't let you. It's not loud, it's not even awake, but it is waiting. You know it, waits for you. You drift again, through heat, through linen, through the smell of boiled ale and damp straw and something red that has not yet been spilled. You're not afraid, not now. There's no room for fear here, only stillness and breath and the push that will wake you when it comes. It builds behind your teeth. The sound, not a scream yet, just the promise of one. Sharp, wide, rising like steam from your ribs. But you don't let it out. You can't. Because in this room, screaming isn't just discouraged. It's dangerous. They say if you open your mouth too wide, you let in more than air. That spirits linger near birthing women, sniffing for gaps. And a scream is the biggest one there is. Old women call it the devil's gate. Your grandmother never whispered that part. She said it plainly. If you scream when the baby crowns, you might invite something else to come out with it. You try to be quiet. Bite the inside of your cheek. Breathe slow. Clutch the cloth under your knees until your knuckles ache. But it hurts. It burns. It spreads through you like fire in a dry field. You close your eyes. Tears slip from the corners, but you don't sob. Crying's a kind of sound too. The midwife glances up, not alarmed, just watching. She's heard this silence before, the kind that vibrates in the walls, in the straw, in your jawbone. She knows you're screaming on the inside, and she knows that's worse. There's a girl in the corner, barely 12. She's been sitting still for hours, watching, learning. Her eyes widen when you arch your back and hiss through your teeth. But she doesn't flinch. She's seen animals give birth, And she's seen what happens when women forget to hold their sounds in. One of them was her sister, the one they buried at dawn. They said it was a fever, but they whispered about the scream. You curl in again, feel the pressure building. The room narrows, someone wipes your brow. The cloth smells of vinegar and fear. Your lips move, not for prayer, not for words, just to test if your voice still works. The midwife leans closer. You're doing fine, she says. She doesn't ask how you feel. That would be foolish. She knows exactly how you feel. She's felt it. She's heard it 100 times. The sound of women trying not to sound at all. Some women hum. Some bite wood. Some clamp down so hard they crack molars. You're doing better than most. You've only bitten your cheek, and your tongue, and maybe a hole in your dignity. But that's expected. Besides, if dignity were required for childbirth, half of Europe would have stopped reproducing by 1300. At this point, your dignity is in the same place as your ankles, out of sight, and not returning soon. The next pain comes hard. You jolt, grip, breathe through clenched teeth. Still no sound. The midwife doesn't praise you. She nods. You want her approval, almost more than relief. Almost. Somewhere near your ear, someone whispers a line from the Psalms. Not for you, for the child, for the air between worlds. Your scream stays where it is, lodged behind your ribs, like a hidden prayer. They'll say you were strong. They'll say you bore it with grace. They won't know that every second of your silence was a negotiation between pain and punishment, and you still don't know who won. The cup is a horn, warm from the hearth, but rough at the rim. The kind of vessel used for cures and things less spoken of. You don't ask what's in it. You don't need to. The scent rises before the cup reaches your lips. Bitter, iron-rich, with something sharp and green beneath. Pennyroyal. You know it from stories, and from the warnings of older girls whose bellies once grew, then didn't. But this isn't a story now. It's your body, and it's time. The brew is thick, not quite liquid, not quite comfort. You sip. It burns in a quiet way, slow, creeping warmth that settles in the pit of your stomach and wait. The midwife watches. Not urgently, not gently either. She just watches. You think she counts your swallows. She says nothing. No one says anything. Everyone in the room has seen this before. They know why it's brewed, when it's offered, what it might allow or end. They don't talk about failure, but the silence speaks for them. Your fingers tremble, not from fear, from pressure, from blood that's gone where it's needed, from nerves that have stopped asking for permission. The pain rises again. But this time it feels different. Not sharper, just deeper. Like it's not just muscle anymore, like it's memory. You've heard the whispers. That pennyroyal could chase a baby out if it didn't want to come. Good. That it could stop the bleeding or start it. That it worked best with Rue. And that both could get you killed if the priest found out. Rue sits heavy now. Your stomach twists once, then again, but nothing comes up. Your mouth is dry. Your spine arches slightly, as though your body is trying to lift away from itself. Still, no one panics. This is expected. This is what it does. You hear the alewife murmur something. Not to you, but to the midwife. A warning or an update. The herbs have done something, or not enough. There's no measure, only watching, only waiting. Once, a girl in the next village drank too much. She was quiet the whole night. Too quiet. When they found her in the morning, the child was gone. So was she. They buried both, without a name, without a cross. The midwife at that birth never came back. Not because of guilt, because she knew she wouldn't be allowed to leave again if she stayed. You lean back. Let your head press into the cloth. The pain hasn't stopped, but it's slowed or changed. It pulses now, like something waiting to break. And maybe the herbs have softened the door, or maybe they've just numbed the lock. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to focus. You feel the baby turn. You feel something give. There's no sound, no confirmation, only motion, and a heat that has nothing to do with fire. The midwife wipes your brow with a cloth. The scent is rosemary this time. It covers the taste in your mouth, but not the knowing in your gut. This is old knowledge, not written, not taught, passed hand to hand, mouth to mouth, womb to womb. You wonder if it will work. You wonder what working even means. And then the next wave comes, and your thoughts are scattered like seeds in a wind that only blows once. The knock is soft. 3 taps, a pause, then nothing, but everyone in the room hears it, as if a hammer just struck the door. The midwife doesn't move. Neither does the alewife. It's the youngest woman, the cousin, maybe, who rises, walks, unlatches the door. He brings no warmth, no smile, only his cassock, his oil vial, and a face already prepared for death. He was not summoned in joy, only in case. He says nothing, not at first. He looks at your belly, your hands, your breath, then to the midwife, brief, flat. That's enough. He kneels. There's no basin, no font, no crowd gathered with godparents and ribbon. Just you, sweating in a straw bed, straining with every few minutes, lips pale from effort, and a man with holy oil, who's here because someone thought you might not make it, or the child, or both. It's called emergency baptism, but nothing about it feels urgent. He uncaps the oil, dips one finger, touches the skin above your navel, lightly, with a muttered Latin phrase. You don't understand the words, but you understand the moment. This is not for you. This is for the soul beneath your skin, because if the child dies inside you before drawing breath, before opening its eyes, before crying once, then it dies without grace, and bodies without grace are buried outside the fence. You swallow. The oil is warm on your skin, but the air feels colder now, or the room feels smaller, or the cradle in the corner feels farther away. It waits, but no one looks at it. He finishes quickly. No blessing for you, no comfort, just a nod, a flick of his fingers, and the scent of oil left behind. The midwife hands him a cloth. He wipes his hands, doesn't thank her, and walks out. You hear the latch catch again. Nothing has changed, but everything has. No one says what the ritual meant, but they all know. So do you. It was a gamble, a safeguard, a whisper to God that if this child is about to slip into the dark, it deserves light, even if it never sees yours. The next pain comes, harder, sharper. You grip the side of the bed. Someone takes your hand. The midwife watches closely now. She knows what happens next. Will decide whether the blessing was a promise or a farewell. You close your eyes and breathe through the ache. You do not know what waits inside you, only that it's almost here. And now it has a name that no one heard, but heaven. The pain has changed. It no longer claws. It presses, heavy, unrelenting, like the weight of sleep you're not allowed to fall into. The midwife's hands rest on your knees, firm, present, steady as the firelight that shimmers across the room's low ceiling. You've lost count of how long you've been here. Time has folded in on itself. All you know is the straw beneath you is damp, and the cradle in the corner is still empty. You are still in labor, still between. Somewhere beyond this room, life continues. Pigs grunt in their pens. A cart rattles past. Rain begins, not loud, but enough to tap against the shutters like soft knuckles. But here, nothing else matters. The house is sealed. No one enters. No one leaves. The door is locked from within. A quiet ritual, observed not out of fear, but reverence. This is the lying-in chamber, and you are in it. For 40 days, sometimes longer. A woman who had given birth was not to leave her home, not to enter church, not to draw water, not even to walk beneath the open sky. She had passed through something holy and something unclean. The line was thin, and both sides were watching. The rules vary by village, by priest, by how the birth ended. If the child lives, the mother remains indoors until the churching. If the child dies, it depends. Some say 40 days still. Some say forever. Some say nothing at all. But all agree, doors should stay closed, just in case. You have not yet reached the end, but the preparations have begun. A fresh gown hangs near the fire. Undyed linen, washed 3 times, folded over a willow branch to ward off illness. The basin beside you has been emptied, refilled, emptied again. No one says it aloud, but each refill is a sign of hope, because if they weren't expecting you to need it again, they wouldn't bother. Your aunt lights a second candle, not because the room is dark, but because one candle for the mother, one for the child. That's the rule. If one goes out before the other, they do not relight it, and they do not speak of what it means. The next contraction bends your spine. This time you groan. Not a scream, just a sound pulled from somewhere older than your lungs. The midwife does not hush you. She nods. That too is part of the process. Another towel is placed under your hips. You don't remember who does it. Everything is soft now. The voices, the walls, the corners of the room. Only the pain is sharp, and it keeps returning. In the village, there are mothers who never left their houses again. Not by rule, by choice. After lying in, they found the outside too loud, too uncertain, too far removed from the dark, warm place where they had become something else. Not maiden, not wife, not widow, mother, if they were lucky, survivor, if they weren't. The door creaks once, just the wood settling. No one moves. And outside, the rain falls harder. Inside, you lie still and wait for the next wave. The world is locked out, and you are locked in with something sacred, something dangerous, something nearly born. The baby is here, small, wrinkled, purple, then red, then finally pink. It doesn't cry at first. Your heart stops, not figuratively. For just a moment, it simply doesn't beat. Then it wails, once, twice, and the room exhales with you. The midwife wraps the child in linen, worn soft as breath, and places it gently across your chest. Its weight surprises you, light, but heavy in a way you hadn't imagined. You stare at it. It stares at nothing. Its fists clench and unclench, as if remembering the effort it took to get here. You try to feed it, or think you do. It roots, mouth open, blind. Your breast aches, but nothing comes. Not yet. Someone takes the child, not to steal, to help. They nod. But sometimes, it doesn't. In noble households, you wouldn't have held the child at all. A wet nurse would have been waiting, her own child weaned early, or lost altogether. She would take your baby, wrap it against her chest, and offer milk still warm from mourning. A silent pact. Her body would keep your child alive. In return, she might receive coin, or clothes, or simply the promise that her own name would be remembered in a second-hand way. Sometimes, the children of wet nurses and noble women grew up together, called each other brother, played with the same toys, learned the same prayers, but one would inherit land, the other would inherit silence. And still, they shared milk, more binding than blood, in some villages. If you were poor, there was no nurse, only neighbors, aunties, sisters, or your own cracked, bloodied breast, and whatever nourishment your body still had to give after all that blood was lost. Sometimes the baby lived, sometimes it didn't, and no one blamed you, not out loud. You once knew a girl whose milk never came. They whispered she had sinned, or that her womb had rejected the child, or that the child had refused her. None of it was true, But in a world without explanation, blame is the closest thing to understanding. You touch your breast again, still sore, still dry. The midwife gives the child a cloth-wrapped finger to suck, a trick, a stall, a mercy. Then she presses a bundle of warm herbs against your side, to draw the milk down, to coax it. And maybe it will, or maybe like so many before you, you will find someone else to feed your child. Not because you want to, because you must. Because survival rarely matches pride in the end. Later, the child sleeps in your arms. Its lips move in dreams, and your gown is damp in a small spreading circle. The milk has come, but by then you are already asleep. Something's burning, but not in a dangerous way. The smell is faint, a wisp of sweet almond and ash, the kind that clings to folded linen, left too close to the hearth. You're not in the birthing bed anymore, or maybe you are, but everything feels softer now. Edges smoothed by breath, colors gone to shadow. You hear fabric move, not rustling, gliding, drawn across your legs, tucked behind your back, layered until you are weightless. Someone hums, the same rhythm as before, but slower now, like a lullaby sung in the language of skin and steam. You try to open your eyes, but they flutter only part way. There's a figure beside the bed, not sharp, not near. Their shape is outlined by firelight that doesn't flicker, but glows like memory. Hands move slowly. They smooth something across your forehead. Oil, maybe. Or the scent again, almond and warmth. It pulls you deeper, not down, inward. A cloth is lifted, not from your body, from the cradle. The weight shifts, tiny breaths, not yours. There is a sound, but it doesn't startle. A sigh, a coo, a question without a question mark. You don't respond, you only listen. Because here, in this space, answers aren't needed, only presence. The rushes beneath the bed are quiet now, still, settled. Even the fire has stopped popping. Its heat reaches you like a long-forgotten hand, cupping your spine with no demand. No fear, no pain, only warmth. You shift once. Your bones remember gravity, but your body doesn't respond. That's fine. You've earned this stillness. In the corner of your mind, you recall the pain, the hours, the breaths, the pushing that split you and remade you. But it lives behind a curtain now, soft, distant, threadbare at the seams. Someone lifts your hand, places something in it, a ribbon, a curl of hair, a memory folded small. You hold it, or it holds you, and somewhere behind you the almond scent lingers, not sharp anymore, just there, just enough. You drift again, this time, not from exhaustion, from comfort. You are not needed right now, and that too is holy. The cradle rocks once, the cloth settles, the shadows breathe, and the room forgets to be anything but warm. Not every child breathes. Sometimes the room is quiet, longer than it should be. No cry, no cough, no movement, just the soft rustle of cloth and the whisper of women who no longer meet each other's eyes. You lie there, damp with sweat, the taste of metal still on your tongue. You wait for the sound, the one every mother listens for. It does not come. The midwife doesn't stop moving. She's been here before, too many times. She takes the child, still slick, still warm, and carries it to the basin in the corner. She doesn't speak. She doesn't pause. She wets the cloth, wipes the eyes, cleans the hands, even if they never reached for anything. She washes with care, not reverence, not grief, routine, as if her hands have learned to grieve without shaking. Your eyes are open, but no one looks at you. Someone presses a cloth to your thigh, tucks fresh linen under your back, cleans blood that keeps coming. It has to be done. There are things to tend to, even now, especially now. You ask the question, or maybe just mouth it. They don't answer. They don't need to. The silence is louder than any reply. The child is wrapped, not in the good linen, not in the christening cloth, embroidered with red thread, in a plain square of wool, brown, worn, folded with gentle, practiced hands by a woman who has done this too many times to pretend it still hurts the same. She holds the bundle the way one holds something unfinished, like a letter never sent, like a breath never spoken aloud. The cradle remains empty. The candles burn low. No prayers are said. Not yet, because the soul, they say, may still be deciding. Sometimes they wait until morning, just in case. Your body aches in a way that has nothing to do with birth. Your arms are empty, and everything inside you knows it. Even the ache in your breasts feels cruel now. Milk already beginning to gather for a mouth that will never ask for it. The midwife leaves for a moment, just long enough to place the bundle behind the fire screen. The heat won't change anything, but it feels like a kindness. When she returns, her hands are clean, too clean, and she picks up the next cloth as if nothing has changed. Because in this room, nothing has. Everything has. No one wails. No one curses the sky. That comes later. For now, there's only the slow breath of women who have seen this before and know what must be done. You close your eyes. You sleep without sleeping. And when the sun rises, you will ask where the baby is, and they will lie. Softly, kindly, briefly, just long enough to let you believe, for one more breath, that maybe it was just a dream. A child who breathes for even a second can inherit land. One who does not is considered never to have lived. This is not belief. This is law. And in a world where property means power, that breath, that tiny flickering moment of life, is worth more than your pain, more than your memory, more than anything else the mother might say. If the child is born blue and silent and still, if no priest was there, if no midwife swears to have heard the cry, then nothing remains. No name, no grave, no right to what might have been theirs. You've heard the stories, noblemen disputing the breath, lords pressing their ears to cold lips, insisting they heard something, or didn't. Widows accused of inventing sons to claim estates, midwives dragged into court to testify about lungs and time and intent, as if life could be measured in anything more fragile than a single heartbeat. Some midwives tried to protect the mothers. They claimed every child cried, even when it didn't. They dipped the body in holy water anyway. They whispered names. They told the priest what he needed to hear. But that was dangerous. A false baptism meant trial, sometimes execution. Truth and mercy rarely agreed. You once knew a woman whose baby lived for 20 heartbeats. She counted them herself, aloud, as the priest stood in the doorway, refusing to cross the threshold, until the child cried. It never did. They buried it in unblessed ground, beneath a stone marked only with a single letter. She never spoke again. The law did not mourn the unborn. It sorted them. If the child was male, it might have been an heir. If female, an unfortunate loss. If born to a married woman, a tragedy. If born out of wedlock, a punishment. If born in silence, a complication. You lie in your bed, arms empty, body stitched where it tore, and still they ask questions. Did you see the cord? Was the child bruised? Did the midwife act quickly enough? They ask these things not out of curiosity, but because someone must be responsible, and you are the one who was there. They never ask if it hurt, or if it matters. You remember the weight, the warmth, the shape of the ears. You remember the way its fingers curled. You know it lived, even if no one else believes you. But memory doesn't stand in court, and grief doesn't count as evidence. Only breath, only sound, only witness. The law says the child was never here, but you know otherwise. And when you close your eyes, you hear it, a breath that never left the room. There are things no one speaks of, but every woman carries. Charms sewn into the seams of a shift, knots tied 3 times with the same red thread, pieces of bone, scraps of parchment, nails wrapped in wool, not because they're pretty, not because they're blessed, but because they're old, and old things. In a world that forgets women quickly, are powerful. The midwife keeps hers in the hem of her apron. It clinks slightly when she moves. Not enough to draw attention, just enough to remind herself. It's there. Inside, a tooth from a stillborn calf, a sprig of vervain tied with flax, a coin that never passed through any man's hand. Each object has meaning. Each has survived birth, death, or worse. She's not sure the charms help, but she's also not sure what would happen without them. The girl in the next cottage braided her girdle with black thread and silver wire, said it kept her hips from splitting. Another kept a small toadstone in her mouth while she labored, and claimed her child never cried once. These stories are shared in whispers, never in church, never before men, not because they're shameful, but because men laugh when they don't understand. And birth, for all their laws and their land, is something they will never truly understand. You wore a charm too, a tiny wooden cross, burnt at the edges, strung on a piece of old ribbon. Your mother gave it to you, told you it had kept her alive when you were born. You lost it during the labor. Or maybe someone took it off. No one has mentioned it since. You're not sure if that means it worked or failed. The women around you now are still working, cleaning the room, checking the basin, whispering to each other about the next mother whose belly is starting to swell. They move with a rhythm that feels ancient, like a dance done barefoot on packed dirt, under a sky that never really noticed who lived and who didn't. One of them carries a bundle of dried herbs, wormwood, fennel, rue. She ties them with ash twine and hangs them by the window to keep the grief from returning, to keep the spirit from circling back, to tell the next baby, not this house. A charm is just a message, a signal to the world that you are asking for mercy without daring to demand it. They're not magic, not really, but sometimes they work. And when they don't, at least you had something to hold on to when everything else slipped away. You lie there now, wrapped in clean linen, a new shift on your skin, soft wool tucked beneath your knees, and though no one says it aloud, you know someone has slipped something under your pillow, a charm, a hope, a fragment of belief, so old it doesn't need language anymore, just silence and breath, and the smallest chance that next time something might be different. 6 weeks have passed. Give or take, time has moved like smoke, slipping between your fingers, never quite settling. You've been kept inside, feet on rushes, hair braided, belly bound. You bled for days, then days again. Now they say you are ready, not to return to life, but to be let back into the world that watched you vanish into pain. Churching, they call it, a ritual of purification. A woman, once considered unclean, is welcomed back into holy space. They never say why she was considered unclean. They never say it to her face. Only that blood left her body, that she crossed some invisible threshold between life and death, and something other, that her body, after birth, wasn't hers until they said it was again. You walk to the church at dawn. The midwife doesn't come. Neither does the alewife. Only your aunt. She carries a cloth-wrapped bundle. You aren't allowed to touch it yet. Your steps are slow. You bleed a little, still, but no one says anything. That's expected. At the threshold, the priest waits. He doesn't look at you directly. His words are practiced. His hands hold a book he barely opens. You kneel, not for forgiveness, for permission. He mumbles the blessing. A psalm, a verse from Leviticus, maybe. Then he signals to the altar boys. They light a new candle, one that represents you, not the child, just you. You, the woman who bled. You, the body that bore. You, who might be clean again. Your aunt hands over the bundle. Inside the cloth, you bled on during birth, the afterbirth, dried and wrapped in ash bark, the red thread that tied the cord. They place it in the fire, not the hearth, the church brazier. It hisses, pops, releases a smoke that smells like sage and something faintly metallic. You do not watch it burn, but you feel it, like a part of your body being turned back into air. They say the fire cleanses, that the smoke carries memory upward, that the act of burning erases shame, dissolves danger, restores order. But you wonder why it's always women whose bodies need restoring after doing what all bodies came from. When the bundle is ash, the priest nods. Brief. Final. You may enter the church now. You may sit. You may sing. You may be seen. You are no longer untouchable. You are simply a woman again. Later you return home. The cradle still sits by the fire, empty. The room is clean. The straw has been changed. The rushes are green. Someone baked bread. You can smell it cooling near the window. A small gift for your re-entry. You sit down, press your palms together, and let your shoulders drop for the first time in weeks. The fire still burns in the corner, but now it's just a fire. Not a test, not a gate, just warmth, just light, just life, again. It starts with a chill. Nothing unusual. A shiver beneath the blankets. A twinge in the lower belly. A vague ache where the birth left its mark. The midwife checks your pulse, tuts softly, adds more herbs to the stew, slips an extra cloth under your back. She says it's normal. Everyone feels strange afterward. Your body is adjusting. You just need rest. You believe her. Of course you do. She's been right about everything. But that night, the fever sets in. Childbed fever, they call it. They don't know the word infection yet. They don't know about bacteria. But they know what comes next. Sweat, delirium, the stink of rot under clean skin. By the third day, you might not recognize your own hands. By the fourth, you stop speaking. The blame shifts quickly. Maybe the linen wasn't boiled long enough. Maybe the midwife cut the cord with the wrong blade. Maybe you saw a dog near the window on the wrong moon. Maybe the saints are angry. Or maybe it's just your fault. You were too proud, too fearful, too loud, too something. In the absence of science, there's always a reason. And it's almost always the mother. Surgeons, when they're called, come straight from the dead. Literally. They've been dissecting bodies, gutting pigs, carving rotted bone in dim cellars. Then they enter your room with blood still under their fingernails and touch you. They mean well, but they bring death with them tucked under their fingernails. The alewife returns. She brings you boiled ale mixed with ground mustard and honey. It doesn't help, but it tastes like trying. She wipes your chest with vinegar, places crushed onions at your feet. They say if the onions blacken, you might live. Yours stay white, pale, useless. No one can explain why some survive and others don't. 2 women gave birth the same week. One bled for a day, then recovered. The other never rose again. Both had the same midwife. Both drank the same tea. Both prayed to the same saints. One lived. One was buried. Sometimes that's all there is to say. There's a story, whispered between women, about a midwife who washed her hands before every birth. Not in ale, in water, just water. They say her mothers always lived. They say the priest called it sorcery, that she was burned.
It's probably not true.
But you wish it were. By the end of the week, your fever breaks. The sweat slows. Your breath steadies. You open your eyes, and the room stays still for once. You survived. This time, and next time. Well, perhaps the saints will stay kind. Perhaps the knife will be clean. Perhaps the onions will blacken. Or perhaps, like most women, you'll trust what you know. That warmth is better than theory. That silence is safer than asking. That every child you birth is a coin tossed into hands you'll never see. You're not alone. But the room is empty. The walls breathe. The floor hums. The straw whispers beneath you with every shift of weight, though you haven't moved in hours, or minutes, or lifetimes. The fire is down to embers now. They glow like buried coals, tucked beneath ash, quiet as sleeping animals. You stare at them through half-lidded eyes and feel heat without burning, light without seeing, pain without pain, just memory, softened by distance. You hear her voice, the midwife, not in words, in rhythm, the same hum she made while tying thread, the same breath between instructions, the same cadence as water poured into a basin, still warm from her hands. Push, love, almost, good girl, not commands, not comfort, just presence, close as breath, far as the stars you haven't seen in weeks. There are hands, but not touching, only hovering, reaching across your skin like shadows trailing behind the candle that no longer flickers. They don't startle, they stay, as if waiting to be remembered, or forgiven. You blink, or dream of blinking. A shape shifts at the edge of your vision, a cradle, not full, not empty, wrapped in silence, just like you. There's linen on your legs, cooler now, damp at the edges, scented faintly with lavender, and something darker, not blood, not earth, ash, like something once sacred burned, to keep you here. You inhale, the air catches slightly, too warm, too thick, too real. The pain is gone, not forgotten, not erased, just elsewhere, stored in the folds of the cloth, in the steam rising from a basin in the corner, in the soft press of a thumbprint left on your hip where someone once braced you as you tore and reformed. She hums again. You can't hear the tune, but your ribs move with it. Your heart slows with it. Your sleep returns with it. You know she isn't here, but you still feel her breath on your temple, cool and steady. The same breath she gave to a baby who didn't take one of its own. The same breath she held when you stopped making sound and started making history. The room stills, and in that stillness, you turn your face toward the voice that's no longer there and whisper, as if it might answer back, I know. The first time you hold the child again, they are heavier than you remember, not in size, in meaning, in everything that almost wasn't. Their eyes flutter in sleep, lashes stuck together from tears or milk or just being new. You brush a finger across their cheek. It's softer than anything in the room, softer even than the wool tucked around them. Washed so many times, it nearly has no texture at all. They don't wake, but they move. They twitch. They shift. A breath. And that is enough. No one speaks when you take them in your arms. It's not ceremony. It's not miracle. It's restoration of balance, of breath, of something stolen and shakily returned. They fit against your chest like a puzzle piece you didn't know had been missing your entire life. Their weight grounds you and lifts you at the same time. The room feels different now. The fire is still going, but it's background noise again. Not a warning, not a test, just warmth. You press your lips to the crown of the child's head. Their hair smells faintly of milk and linen and sleep, and it hits you all at once. They're real. They're here. They stayed. The midwife has left. Her bundle is gone. Her tools cleaned. No one saw her go. That's always how she does it. She only stays for the danger. Once the crying starts, once the feeding begins, once the blood has been wiped clean, she vanishes, as if she was never there at all. You are tired in a way that has no name. Not weary, not weak, just emptied. Your body is an open field after harvest. Used, necessary, still sacred, but no longer blooming. And that's all right. That's how it should be. They bring you food, porridge, thick, hot, barely salted. You eat it with one hand, while the child sleeps in the other. The spoon clinks against the bowl. No one minds the noise. For once, you're allowed to be noisy. The cradle has been lined with fresh wool. No charms hang above it now, just a scrap of red cloth tied to the corner post. It will do. You don't put the baby down yet. Not yet. You've waited too long to let go so soon. Outside, a neighbor sings. Something simple. Not for you, but you hear it anyway. It settles over the house, like a second roof. And for the first time in what feels like seasons, you breathe without bracing. You didn't win. There was no battle, but you endured. And now, you are two. You, and this small sleeping person with a name that will grow into them like roots into soil. The last of the rushes have been swept away. Straw burned, linen folded, the basin emptied, dried, and hung. The door creaks without tension. Now, no whispers behind it, no waiting feet, just wood and air settling back into place. You are alone. For the first time in weeks, the room belongs to you again. There's quiet now, but not the kind that waits, not the hush before something begins. This is the quiet after pain, after push, after breath, the kind of quiet that holds space without asking anything in return. Your body is not the same. It never will be. You move differently, slower, more certain. Your hands feel older, but also stronger. There's milk drying on your shift. You don't wash it, not yet. It's the only part of you that still feels like a blessing that's stuck. The cradle is near the fire, close, but not too close. The baby sleeps, fingers curled like tiny question marks. You watch them breathe, still, steady. The blanket shifts slightly with each rise and fall of the chest. You find yourself matching the rhythm, not on purpose, just instinct. Like your breath is no longer only yours. Outside, the village returns to noise. Someone chops wood. Children shout over skipping stones. The blacksmith sings out of tune again. You hear it all, but it sounds different, duller, farther, as if you've moved one step sideways into another version of the world. One where you are seen again, but not fully, not yet. No one will ask what it felt like. Not the midwife, not the neighbor, not even your sister when it's her turn. They'll ask if the child feeds, if you've bled much, if the stitches held. They won't ask about the silence, or the stillness, or what it was like to hold death by the throat and let go because you had something better to hold. You touch your stomach. It's soft, empty, sacred in a way no one warned you about. No longer a vessel, but not yet your own again. You light a candle, just because the flame flutters, but holds. You close your eyes, and remember when nothing in the room held steady like that. There are other things waiting for you. Tasks, visitors, the priest, perhaps, with more blessings to mutter. But for now, it's just you, and breath, and quiet, and the knowledge that something moved through you and left something behind that no one can take. This is the quiet that follows. It does not explain. It does not praise. It simply remains. And so do you. The hush has deepened fully now. No more rushes. No more prayers. No more waiting. Just the last curl of smoke from a fire that no longer needs to burn to keep you warm. The child is asleep. You are still. Not entirely rested, but entirely here. The kind of stillness that follows storms without asking what they meant. You lie, wrapped in layered linen, every fold adjusted just so. A cocoon, not of silk, but of effort, of survival. Your knees ache. Your back sings soft protest. But your breath is yours again. Not timed to pain, not drawn in through your teeth. Just breath, rising, falling. As simple and steady as a cradle on its hinges. Outside, the sky has faded from iron to ink. Cool air creeps through the shutters, touches your cheek, then retreats again, respectfully. You've earned your silence and your sleep. The world feels smaller, not out of fear, but comfort. Like the edge of the blanket you've tucked beneath your toes, there is a border now, and inside it, nothing can take what you've already held. You've bled, you've grieved, you've loved something before it even had a name. That doesn't vanish, it becomes you. Let the room dim. Let the rush of the world slow to something manageable. Let this last candle burn itself out without interference. Sleep will come soon, not from exhaustion, but permission. Your breath slows, even, deep, in harmony with the quiet around you. The cradle sighs. You smile, and in that smile, there is history. A little ache, a little wonder, and all the stories you'll never need to explain, because they live now in every part of you. The candle's out now, only the glow remains. The memory of light, painted faintly on your closed eyelids, like a dream you didn't have to invent. The room is quiet, so is your body, so is the past. For now, you've heard the story, you've lived it, gently, and you don't need to carry it any farther tonight. You can set it down, here, with the straw, with the salt, with the sound of a midwife's breath, and the ache of women who never made it to morning. All of them rest now, in the rhythm of your breath. Thank you for staying, for listening with softness, for letting the past speak in whispers. There will be more. More hush, more firelight, more quiet defiance. Dressed in linen, but not now. Now there is only the drift, the fall, the sleep. Return when you're ready. I'll be waiting, where the wind moves behind wooden shutters, and history curls softly into straw. Sleep well. History never rests, but you should. Take care.